For today is Hebrews 10:14. For by one offering he has perfected forever those who are being sanctified. This verse reminds us of the all-sufficient atonement of Jesus Christ to save sinners. Let's look at the words of the text. To begin with, the writer of Hebrews introduces this by using the word for, or the Greek word gar. The word gar takes us back to the previous context. And the previous context is contrasting the insufficient animal sacrifices of the Levitical priesthood with the all-sufficient, one-time accomplishment of Jesus Christ on the cross to save sinners. If we look back at the first verse of chapter 10, it talks about the insufficient animal sacrifices. For it says, "For the law, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of those things, can never with these same sacrifices, which they offer continually year by year, make those who approach perfect." So the writer of Hebrews is telling us that the sacrifices that are described in the Old Testament, particularly the offering of the blood of bulls and goats, are not able to perfect those who come to God, even though they're offered continually year by year. For he says in verse 2, "For then would they have not ceased to be offered." In other words, had they accomplished the intended purpose, they would not have to be continually offered year by year. He says in the same verse 2, "For the worshippers once purified would have had no more consciousness of sins." They would have been forgiven, in other words. Their sins would have been dealt with. But in those sacrifices, there is a reminder of sins every year. For it is not possible, absolutely not possible, that the blood of bulls and goats should take away sins. This system, the Old Testament Levitical system, is insufficient. Hebrews 10:10 says, "Now we have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all." This is in contrast to all of this. Jesus Christ offered his body once for all. And then verse 11 says, "And every priest stands ministering daily, offering repeatedly the same sacrifices, which can never take away sins. But this man, Jesus Christ, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins, forever sat down at the right hand of God." He was completely finished. His sacrifice is sufficient, and the animal sacrifice is insufficient. Now look at the text. So, the writer of Hebrews is defining the sufficiency of Jesus Christ's work on the cross. For by one offering, and the word offering, prophora, is a word that means to give or to be a gift. In the Old Testament, it referred to a Levitical offering. In the New Testament, it more particularly refers to a sacrificial offering. It is used 5 times here just in chapter 10. And the offering is used for the sacrifice of Christ. And so he's saying, for by the one and only sacrifice of Jesus Christ, he, that is Christ, has perfected forever those who are being saved. So let's look at the word perfected here. This is a very important word. The word perfected comes from the Greek word teleao. It means to consummate, to reach an end, to reach a goal, to accomplish, to finish, to complete. And the idea is to reach the finality of what the intended purpose was. Now, to know exactly what the word perfected here in this text means, you have to really look at the context of the book of Hebrews. And in Hebrews, you find the word perfected used a number of times. Like, for instance, in Hebrews 7:19, it says the law made nothing perfect, talking about the law of Moses and the Old Testament sacrificial system. And then also in our chapter we're involved in here today, chapter 10, verse 1, it says, "For the law can never make those who approach perfect." In other words, the law of God cannot make anyone perfect, and the law of God, through the sacrifices that are offered, can never make one perfect. So really in the book of Hebrews, the word perfected here has the idea of being made holy, being made righteous in the sight of God, because later on we find that we are now able to boldly come before the throne room of God And the reason why is we have been made holy in Christ. This perfection is given to those who are being sanctified. So he's not talking about the perfected offering, although it is a perfect offering. He's talking about the reality that once Jesus offered himself as a sacrifice on the cross, he has been able to accomplish and complete what the law could not do, in that now he has made holy or perfected, or we could say saved, those who are being sanctified. Look at the word forever. Now, there's a common way that's expressed in the New Testament, and it's the word that could be literally translated from the Greek, unto the ages, whenever it talks about the eternality of our salvation, or that we are saved forever, or that Jesus Christ will be with us forever. It's unto the ages. And it's talking about the time span itself. But that's not what is used here to be translated the word forever. This is the word diaphero. It's made up of two words, dia, which means thoroughly through, and then you have the word pharaoh, that is the word to carry, or to carry all the way through. It talks about perpetuality, or to be unbroken, or to be without interruption. It's used in chapter 10, verse 1, and translated continually. It's also used in chapter 10, verse 12, where it says, but this man, referring to Christ, after he has offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down at the right hand of God. So this word forever has more to do with than just time. It has to do also with perpetual effects. In other words, the offering of Jesus Christ has had perpetual, ongoing, forever effects on us, making us holy. It's not only talking about time, but it's talking about the actual ongoing accomplishment of the cross. What a beautiful way to talk about this. This is not something that needs to be repeated. This is not something we have to have Jesus return and do again. This does not have to be done through a repeated sacrifice, through what the Roman Catholics teach as a Mass, where Jesus is perpetually sacrificed. This does not have to be done like the Seventh-day Adventist religion teaches, that there's an ongoing perpetual pouring out of the blood on the mercy seat in heaven. No, what Jesus has done, the one offering, has been forever able to perfect those who are being sanctified. Now, the those here that he's talking about are the ones that are being sanctified. This word, those who are being sanctified, the last part of this verse, is actually only two words in the Greek language, tous agios menos. And this word refers to those who are being made holy. The Greek word translated here in our text, sanctified, actually is a word that comes from a root that means holy. We see it all the time through the New Testament. It's translated holy, sanctified, to sanctify, to be a saint, to be made holy, pure, righteous, in those sense. The word hagiadzo. But it is interesting to note here that in this text, the writer uses a present participle. This is a present participle, but it's also passive, which means that someone, and we know who that is, that's God, who is acting on us to sanctify us or to make us holy, but it's also present tense. Now, there has been some debate in commentaries as to exactly what is meant by this. Is he talking about the reality that those who are already made holy positionally in Christ are the ones who are being made practically holy right now in this life? Or is he saying that those who are positionally, eternally, and perfectly made holy in Christ are the ones who are remaining holy right now as a result of Christ? That may sound a little technical, but one of the ways you could read it is like this. Is he talking to those who continue to be holy because they are perfected? Or is he talking to those who are being made holy day by day in their sanctification? One is timeless, That would be this one here, because it is a positional holiness that is based upon the work of Christ on the cross, and you receive a perfect holiness that is given to you to come before the throne room of God. And the other would be considered temporal. You are being made holy. And really both are true, but I particularly believe that what he's saying is that the ones that we know are perfectly holy in Christ are the ones that are being made by God holy in this life. In other words, the way you identify a Christian is not by going up into heaven and seeing if they have been made holy, but rather, are they being made holy now? Are they being made sanctified now? That's the most important identifier of anyone who has been truly perfected by God. Charles Haddon Spurgeon wrote these words: "He did not die to make men savable. He died to save them. He did not die that their sin might be put away by some effort of their own. He died to put it away. Once in the end of the world, he has appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. There was one death, one sacrifice, one atonement, and all the work of man's redemption was forever accomplished, so that we can sing, 'Love's redeeming work is done, fought the fight, the battle won.'" And that is the word for today.